And the session for today, correct, will be how to work within Business Central to basically configure and see the tools that we have for the supply chain to actually be able to uh, satisfy basically the demand. There is no replenishment specifically, but we need to still anyway check the vendor lead time, check how we then in the warehouse we know that we cannot just immediately move items. Sometimes we need, some treatment to our items like packaging and all of that. But in the end, the idea is the timing, right? And in order to move items from the vendor to the warehouse and then to the customer, how much and how can we assure that we are going to get availability for our items once we start selling them. So that's the idea for today. So I'm opening now Business Central. This is the page that we are seeing now, and I'm moving them right. So the idea is that we are going to then be working with our items, vendors, and customers. So how do we connect all these three components in order to then check from the physical inventory, the time we purchase, and all the configurations that we need to do? Let's just begin with the one of our items. I will be opening, let's take a look at the Athens mobile pedestal A, and we have this picture of this just to see and understand what type of item would be, just a general item. Now, for me, one of the first things that I need to understand within Business Central is that I can calculate my quantity on hand. But as well, let's just take a look. My quantity on hand is currently 5, but it doesn't mean that I will have availability in each warehouse. Look at this. I have 5, but somebody purchased here without having to specify a location. We can do so in BC because, well, initially we would say that some our customers prefer not to work with all the inventory management. In first place, we can just use finance as an example. Yeah, it's a possibility, but that's not really what we need to do. Let's say that we work with finance, but many of us, well, in some phases, we need to move to physical inventory controls. And then in order to work with that, we have this concept, the location. It's basically a warehouse or physical entity like a truck or something where we put our items, right? So here I have the East, Main, with the West, and Yellow warehouses. Now that I have here, the idea is that I need those items if possible. The idea is in order to sell, I need that quantity here. Of course, the main question is how many. But let's begin with a new item that we are going to purchase for the first time, introduce into the supply chain, and then let's see if it's going to be selling. Good. So that will be more or less the idea, and then the setup or the main setups that we need to follow. Uh, for us, we need to understand that every vendor that is going to then supply any item has some specific configs. For instance, we have this replenishment tab. Here's where we are going to begin. We have some methodologies in order to start replenish our items. So we could be purchased, it could be produced or assembled. Now, I'm going to start with the first one, of course, which is the purchasing part. And then we're going to need a vendor lead time. The vendor lead time is going to just be discussed or could be defaulted at any given point. We just need, and we can set up the vendor number here. So let's just configure, for instance, if I have a good conversation with this vendor, let me see what is configured here. It's a Graphic Design Institute. This vendor is from, and this item is from our demo. So the idea is that I would need to ask him how much would be necessary to handle this specific item. Now, each vendor could have specific or defaulted vendor lead time, like in general. Let's take a look and then we come back to this field. What I'm going to do now is just use this vendor. Look at the picture. It is a contact. The address, they are in Miami, according to this Graphic Design Institute. And by the way, I'm in London. My company, Kronos, is in London. So I would say, and I would have a discussion about, how much time would you need in order to send me an item if I purchase? Then I have this receiving tab. Let's just go there. And once again, where am I going to receive this item if I purchase from the vendor? So we have a defaulted warehouse. Once again, we see the concept of the location here, and then we work with it. The location code currently is main. Here I'm going to receive as a defaulted requirement with this vendor we negotiate that he's going to start delivering this new product into this warehouse. And then we need a shipping agent code if we need to transfer to other areas. By the way, we as well have our own logistics system that is, in my case, the own logistics. So these are my trucks. And well, if optionally is necessary, we can produce and connect other systems like, well, the carriers in order to get rates and then be able to ship items. Just for you to know, it's an app that we can use to integrate and then as well call this carrier information and create a real shipment contacting these guys, right? But for now, the lead time calculation is here, as I was mentioning. For me, it will be taking 1 week then to move items from London to Miami, and this will be very fast. So the idea is that I configure just this part in order then to work and notify Business Central. Okay, this is the main initial time. So let's say that this is the first part of the supply chain, right? So the first is when I purchase, then I call to this vendor, I'm going to need this or that item, but how much would you need then to send me all of this? So ideally, it's going to be 1 week. Plus, then later we can just get reports to measure the vendor performance, just for you to know. So this is the basic configuration, correct? Now we have another important configuration, which is the base calendar code. From here, I have one calendar that can help me to configure initially, well, the calendar for my company when I can just specify no working days specifically. So let's say that we can mark some days that we are not going to work. This is important. Or when the warehouse is basically not to work, ideally because we need to understand how the processes will be connected. So if I want to have availability for my customers, the first step is once the warehouse receives stuff, which days they will be working for any given reason, they might skip some days. Locally, you might have some holidays, special days, or even internal celebrations in the company and so forth, and you can use this description field as well. So for me, it would be a matter of just start, for instance, you can use these tools now in the calendar. For instance, that when I'm selecting the Sunday day, I can filter just to check all Sundays if necessary, right? So no more than that. I'm just working and I just can specify which specific days I will be working in this warehouse in the entire company, and that's it. You can create not only this calendar, but we can just continue creating more by clicking on the plus button. And why not even to create, if you have the possibility to create another calendar that I will be calling the graphical design or vendor, right? This is a vendor calendar. So you can ask now your vendor which days they can supply to you any given item as well. Work with holidays for in their specific countries or for any given reason. Create the same idea that we have for our company, but in this case, add it to the vendor, to the desired vendor. So this vendor, even though I don't work on Sundays, as an example, they work on a daily basis, and that's ideal for me. So I'm going to select then his base calendar code because they can do so. And then another additional but optional concept is the over receipt. Just in case and to avoid issues, we need to accept, when we purchase from a vendor, maybe they won't be able just to deliver the exact quantity for because of errors or because they just send different items uh, and while combining them they might be confusing or just adding more or less whatever, but sometimes we need to accept that we need to over receive in order to complete a purchase, and we don't have any other option in this case because we will be importing from the USA to the UK, and then well, just let's accept the over receipt code if it happens. But the important field that I want to clarify after these optional configurations, and it's good to have them. In this case, I would like to understand, well, the lead time. This is the one that is going to affect us the most, okay? Good. So this is a defaulted version of initially once we start negotiating or adding a new customer. This has to do with timing in our supply chain, basically. Now, after this, I'm going to come back to my item. And once again, but what happens if for any given reason, this item cart, right, you can see that we have another lead time calculation field. So it's the same idea, but this will have more a priority over the defaulted lead time on the vendor. So in this case, maybe if I ask for this item, well, it might require some assembly components or assembly time from part for the vendor. Other items will be assembled even in ships, just for us to we understand that we purchase from abroad or importing, right? But it depends. The idea is that it could change on the item specific, and then we would be able to then to shorten or add more time to the original lead time calculation if necessary. So from here, as well, in another important review from here would be the let me see where is. No, it's not enabled for now. Okay, the concept of the stock keeping unit. Let's just take a look at this. Many of us will be working in the supply chain and try to understand and define. Okay, that's fine but maybe add it to our just first contact point from the vendor, and then for their reception and the lead time we spoke about that we are going to be receiving in this warehouse. What happened if later, in order to supply any other customers, I would need to transfer from this main warehouse, right, to other warehouses as well. It's important to mention this because the our supply chain, as long as our company is larger and larger, of course, it is understandable that we need to interconnect different locations from. So we think that we might receive it in the main warehouse, but then later we need to transfer to other warehouses as well, right? So let's say that in this case, in the East warehouse, I need to transfer from the main to the my other second warehouse, which is in the east area. Then I need to create then some configurations to mention to the system, right, where you're going to purchase, where you're going to sell, and plus it has additional very cool features. This concept of the stock keeping unit. Let's just take a look. I've just created one. I have this function to create stock keeping unit for my different locations, just in a general way, right? And now then I'm gonna go to the stock keeping unit list. I have created just one line, by the way, so here it is. And here I have a connection. If you take a look, let me just maximize this a little bit, between my item number and the location, which is in the east zone. Fine. So coming back to this stock keeping unit card, let's just take a look. In the east warehouse, if necessary, how do we then replenish then from this warehouse? Then we can say, okay, in the location code east, the replenishing method would be maybe transfer. Look at this. I can purchase this item and place it in this specific warehouse as well if necessary, but I would use then, look at this, the transfer option. So we are saying to the system, if you by any given chance have another customer not in the or near the main warehouse, but this east warehouse, let me see where it is located, in Atlanta, in the USA. Good. So I have this warehouse here in Atlanta, which is in the south. And then what will be ideally the concept here for what we try to do? I was saying that the stock keeping unit card help us to connect dots, right, among our locations. Plus, it going to control the cost because once we transfer from our initial item and then we move it to the east warehouse, then we are going to get, of course, a different valuation because we will add traveling insurance sometimes or any type of expenditures then just to make this item and send it to the east warehouse as well. So we are going to start adding costs in the reality that is going to happen. So how many days? Once again, lead time calculation concept. But if you want to purchase and receive in that warehouse as well, you need the vendor number. So remember, the stock keeping unit doesn't really actually help you to just don't then define this will be fixed. I always follow the same route. Why not to later the vendor will open another location near Atlanta? I would prefer to buy maybe to the same vendor, but in this warehouse. Okay, so you can as well purchase in this same warehouse. That's what my configuration is saying. just in a general way, just to understand the options. But ideally, in this moment, I will be purchasing in my main warehouse, but with this replenishment system from my stock keeping unit card. If I have another customer that is in Atlanta, then I'm going to be just needing 1 day and then create a transfer order for that. The system can take a look at this. So the idea is that whenever the customer wants to purchase something, either if it's in Atlanta near our East warehouse, they well the system will calculate the lead time from the vendor plus the time that I need to transfer from that warehouse to the from the main warehouse to the east warehouse. Okay, so we are connecting and we are adding more routes as well, not using only one warehouse, but well, for those companies, some of you that will be using these additional setups as well, they are here. And it's good to know that once again, you can cost your items in all of these different locations. In this case, my cost in this warehouse currently is 338. It's the same as the cost that I will be having in my item card for now. Let me just come back. Here it is, 338.2, because just I'm just creating this item, designing the routes where this item can be purchased and sold and so forth. But with the time, this value, of course, is going to change. Okay, so this is it. Another important setup. Let's just go and configure. Let's just check our warehouses now. What they can tell us about the timing. Sorry, let's just take a look. The timing means in the warehouse locations. Let's come back to this. This is the a main warehouse. Okay, is currently located in Chicago. So then, if I think of moving items to the Chicago warehouse as well, once I have them, I'm going to still need some time to prepare items. So this is the outbound warehouse handling time, is the is the time that I need to prepare my items for shipments. Okay, this time element basically is for the delivery, nothing else. So you can consider that, okay, you need to create a shipment date. Your customer is going to ask you when they are going to need their items, but we have a function that we're going to see in a moment that allows us to calculate all of these times that I'm adding in order to be able to tell the customer, if I don't have the item currently, well, I'm going to purchase the item. I'm going to receive it here, 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 here. I'm going to transfer to these other places, but internally, I need 1 day to prepare my shipment. And maybe in that warehouse, I'm going to need my entire shipping department to work and pick and pack those items, put them in the shipping area, and then prepare them. Well, that takes time. We need to work as well with some additional times and in my warehouse. We need to go with the warehouse manager and asking how much do you think it would be necessary then for us to start, measuring this in a general way, because it's impossible actually to control this, perfectly. But I at least will have an idea of the entire process so we can then later give an answer to other customers. Now, as well, the same for inbound handling time. Once I start receiving the items, either the shipments or the trucks or the vendors will be arriving with the items. You then unload those trucks, that merchandise from the container and start receiving it, right? How much do you need would be important for you to then unpack the items, then receive them and put them away in the different shelves. Well, this is the inbound warehouse handling time. In our configuration, or the way a Business Central ideally handles this, or what it means is really that all your operations that you need to do to have this item already there, available, all right, as a physical quantity, and the items already put away in their shelves. Once they are put it away, then they will be then just available. So I won't add in this moment. My warehouse is not yet that complicated or that big. So when I receive the item in the same day, I can put it away. Mhm. For me, at least in my warehouse, is more complicated the shipping, maybe because of some constraints in the area. Maybe I don't have enough area for all trucks to arrive, and maybe two or three at the same time. Maybe I only have one or two bays to receive and then ship, and all those trucks that will be then just waiting. Okay, at least give me one day to prepare your items, I would say. And this is the minimal configuration, I would say, in all these warehouses that we have implemented. Of course, we might require 2 or 3 days sometimes. So, well, basically, as well, we have some additional functionality where we can connect to Bing Maps, just in case, just for you to know if that's good to know. If you like it, we have other calculation methods that allow us actually to check just coordinates in our locations. Let me just see from here. It's good to know that we have this functionality. So we need the coordinates, right? Again, to be able to understand by the GPS or other functionalities. If you actually want to measure shipments, and we have other applications that we connect with, that is necessary specifically for parcels that we sometimes send and so forth. Connect with DHL or other carriers, or So well, just to mention, we have the option here. But nothing else. It's all about remember the timing and giving you the idea of the real configurations we might need to sometimes do independently. We help you to do this when we do an implementation. If you want to really optionally start handling this time, then we are going to ask you, what are the lead time, the inbound warehouse handling time, the outbound warehouse handling time, and so forth. So it's just quite normal to have this, but these are options that you can use. And then how are they useful for us once we have them? Why would we put all this effort into all this data in the end? Because this could be even item by item or item groups. Well, for us, it's very important in the end. It depends. Okay, when would you, or when would I recommend to start working with this? This is just an example, but in the end, remember that we might be handling maybe 100 vendors with 60,000 items at least, or something like that. Especially in the retail industry, we this is very complicated. So we don't necessarily need to spend all this money adding additional data such as this one, except only if we really want to provide a really good customer service. And specifically, well, it helps us a lot to do then the calculations for us to be able to promise to the customer when we can have an item according to this. And if that's necessary for us, it's important. Well, then maybe if we can handle it better. It's not difficult to do in the end. Or maybe just for some vendors, some items in your supply chain. Of course, that would be better to consider some valuable items that you might have. I wouldn't do it. Uh, for instance, if we go in the restaurant industry, I don't care about the sugar, the salt, or you can just get it locally, and those type of small value items. I don't care about them actually. But what about the proteins, the meat, right? And all of that is measurable everywhere, right? So perpetual inventory is an important concept as well. And those items that have a high value for us in our industry and they get good sales, of course, will be good to have this. And we have it in Business Central if you need it. Good. So now I'm going to open a sales order and just see how all these different points or dots will be working together. Let me just open a sales order. Give me a second to start creating this. Well, by the way, if this is the first time you see a sales order, well, the concept is that it help us to create outbound operations. Of course, it's just a sale. Let me just give you then this example. The customer name is then going to be added here from our list of customers. I only have a few in my demo. And by the way, let's say that you can filter. We add the zip code. Remember that we are working as well with locations. We can verify where this adatum, I'm going to add this customer adatum. But just for you to know, and as well, we need to check. Oh, good. For me, these guys are in Atlanta, so I won't need that much time. They are not in the other east warehouse. Okay. Or I have, okay, a warehouse near Atlanta, by the way, which is basically near one of our warehouses. But for any given reason, and for me to complicate it, this guy is not going to purchase in the warehouse that is near his location. I'm going to add more complexity just to see calculations, just for you to see them. Let me select this guy. So after this, I just will be selecting one of my items. Let me see. I was checking at the desk, if I'm not mistaken, the one that I was configuring. Yes, here it is. The Athens desk is the item that I will be using now. And just to complicate things, this guy was in Chicago. Yeah, this one. This is going to help me just to show you some calculations, right? Don't worry about the different addresses. That's not the concept that I want to explain, but the timing, okay? I will be requiring in the main warehouse for now. My main warehouse will be shipping to this customer 10 of these Athens desks. Now, important to mention that whenever you start selling, you can check this, the item availability. What's going on? I understood that I have only 5 items. I don't know where because they don't have a location. I need to start purchasing now, but I don't have any other reference. This is a new item maybe that somebody is creating in this moment that I can sell maybe to start, like checking the item if it's going to sell actually. Maybe I purchase it because it's similar to another successful item that I sell, something like that. Okay. The idea is that you can measure your availability. What is this concept? Let me just show you. In this moment, I have 2 sales orders. Actually, I know that I don't have a availability, but I can see that for the same customer, he's requiring into 2 different sales order, maybe to be sent in different locations. I don't know. Well, the gross requirement is currently 20. So I can see that as well. Well, this is my demand. Let's consider it that way. That way. On Wednesday, April the 10th. Sorry, this is because of my license for in my demo environment. So just having the sales order, the requirement or the demand, then you can reserve, by the way, because we don't want, once we start selling, well, we can reserve this item so nobody else touches it. That's another cool feature that I can show you now. And as well, the projected available balance. The more I start selling, well, guess what? My availability could be even negative. So it doesn't matter. It's not exactly only checking the physical quantities in order to sell, but you need to understand that once we open the supply chain and these items for our customer, well, the idea is that my availability as well consider other factors such as the items that are coming on different purchase orders. If for any given reason you have additional demand that you will be adding, if you have reservations, well, they won't be anymore available. Okay, once I start purchasing the item, I can reserve items. Take that concept from here. Nothing else for to check, just the availability concept is how many from the physical quantity, or even if I don't have it, well, I still gonna need to get to continue with the sales. Somehow it consider all these options, but item availability in the end is a number that I want to check to understand how many I can still sell, if that's possible. Good. Then from here, since I don't have even items and my availability is just currently negative, and look at this, the gross requirement is 20. This is the actual demand, okay? The gross requirement. Remember, don't want to confuse you with all these technical concepts in the supply chain, but I'm pretty sure that for many of you, this is very useful, and these are, in the end, variables that we need to understand. So the gross requirement is just the demand, because it could be different from the item availability, because as well I have reservations. So remember that I can reserve items for my customer at Atom Corporations, a corporation, when even if they haven't arrived, even if they are in transit or in a purchase order just coming, immediately I can reserve this because I can see, remember, if I have POs coming. So from here, I can just plan, use this function for a order promising This is a function that helps me to verify when am I capable to promise. After all these measurements, the actual sales order was created on this date with my license. But now that I'm actually doing these calculations, when am I going to be able to promise to this customer that I'm going to receive the items to be able to ship to his location? So then I can say that a early shipment date that I can get to you will be then 9 days later after the actual requested date. So then I could say, okay, I can, and even if I don't have the item, you can negotiate now with the customer, right? How many days, and if they are willing to wait, most of the time it will be the case. The idea is that it helps us with our customer service because in the supply chain, all the companies, all the customers, even if we are or our customers could be as well resellers. Don't forget that the main issue in any company, in any supply chain, is the item availability. Companies invest a lot of money in softwares that allow them to forecast, statistical softwares that help them to replenish with very complex models, interconnected solution to BC as well, and we actually do so. But none of that could be able to work if we don't do this, if we don't understand these basic ideas and we do these basic configurations. So if you at some point want to make your company grow, even I would think of that concept. And in many implementation I see that many of our customers sometimes cannot grow anymore apart well the specific points because the data available to process this perpetual inventory as well with the times and dates is just maybe too much. It's just an effort that we need to add, and it's not very. Uh, we need to have some experience, of course, in this in each company, but at some point believe me, if you want to grow as a company, we need Business Central and plus additional features, of course. But with this basic functionality, our supply chain is going to really increase its capabilities. Good. So I'm just going to accept for now this after this brief comment, and then I'm just going to release this purchase order. So let me just come back a little bit to the concept once again. This is then an action in my action. I'm going to functions in my sales order. Sorry, to plan. I have this specific feature that we call then the order promising, right? And let's take a look at as well at the demand overview. Why not? Just for you to check more information that we can provide. And yes, here, well, I have a sales requirement at least for this sales order is now -10, and I want to reserve this. Okay, reserve quantity already. Look at this. I don't even have well the capable to promise functionality as well understand, okay, no, we are having a commitment with our customer to then deliver the item in this given date, right? Remember, we are talking about and the demand overview. This is then how we then will be working now, not on the actual current day when I'm selling. I will be then trying to attain this day to then commit with the customer this reserved quantity that I have already done. So nobody else will be able then to take my items and then sell them to other customers. So the functionality additionally add this requirement. So we reserve the item is you if you as well work with the capable to promise. I mean, if you run it, it's gonna make that for you. It's good to know that. And then in the planning window, the expected delivery date is added and the shipment date. Okay. In this case, well, let me see the statistics and show my matrix for you to know. It's important to mention as well that you have some investments in these items. So at any given point, right? We need to discuss of the cost of goods sold. Yes, even though we are speaking about, well, we are talking about warehousing and all of that. But what is this concept? And a Business Central gives this window for you in the planning part as well as an important window that we are checking out because the cost of goods sold It's just a technical name, accounting a concept basically that tell us how much we have invested in our item. So we are going to purchase the item, then we are going to then pay for freight services to import it maybe or to transfer to other warehouses and so forth. So if for you it's important your budget or the budget that you will be managing as well, maybe it's too much, it's too expensive, right, to ship the item, and maybe the price won't be then be appealing, simple as, right? So we take a look at this value, basically the cost of goods sold filter out of the different the cost actually comes from the GL account, cost of goods sold for the item. So we purchase, we transfer, if we assembly, if we add production or whatever you need for that item to have it available to be able to sell it to this customer, then this is the money you are investing. So it's good to take a look at all of these different entries, right? It's informational. It does not is not included in our calculation process for now, but it's good to have it and to see how much money we invest in order to do this up to do this possible, right? So yeah, this is the capable to promise. Now let's come back to the item availability, and then I'm going to purchase now this item actually, correct? So let's just go and create a purchase order. Let me show you the other document. This is the inbound document that we are going to use. Sorry. And then I'm going to create using another vendor. It's similar to the, it's very similar to the, um, uh, let me see if this guy has, well, whiteboard importers lead time. Once again, a vendor card, and then let's say receiving the location code main, and the lead time calculation will be 1 week. Why not? Okay. Remember, just to mention, I'm configuring my vendors, and now I'm going to purchase from the whiteboard importers. From here, once again, my Athens desk, and the idea is to see how my availability or the concept of the availability, right? We are learning this part yet. So I'm going to purchase, why not, 100 now. Good. 100 is then for me, for this item, well, good to have it because I'm start selling it fine. I see that I have already sold 20, and well, you can do so even, you can create your items. You don't necessarily have to, well, having them physically, you can start showing to your customers and use these new features, or not new features, just these features to show the customer, show the catalog. And if they want it, well, start ordering them. Why not? So it's good for me just to sometimes work with this type of a process that I explain when we do implementations. Let's use these small, tricks here and there to, you don't have to spend that much money. So, but anyway, now I have just purchased this item. I mean, I have just created the purchase order. The idea is that once I, in the header, inserted my wildborn importer vendors, from the vendor card, I'm going to get all this data. The vendor is in Atlanta. Important, I have a contact code because I have an email. And it's good to know as well, just that I'm here, that we can send an email to this vendor, right? And then if he's in front of you, just print this purchase order and give it to the vendor. And if not, well, just send it through email. So well, we have a mechanism just to establish communications, and we automated the process. So we are not going to send an email right now, but we can connect Outlook, right? And well, we can create just an attachment that is going to be added to the actual email, and it's going to look just like this, right? So this is the purchase order from Kronos. This is the cost and so forth for my 100 units. I'm going to be paying this plus taxes when it's required and so forth. From here, I will be then just considering the following. Some, in this case, I have 100 units coming in this PO, but in order to include this PO into the calculations of the availability, just change this status open. For us, the POs, once we start designing or while we do the negotiations with the vendor, our status will be open. But now, in order that we realize that yes, we are going to purchase, we have finalized our negotiations, the cost is correct, and so forth, we need to click on and change the status to release. This just basically means that this is ready then to be, after we finalize the negotiation and all of that, the purchase order is just ready. So we have sent it to the vendor, the email arrived, they have contacted us, okay, I'm going to ship my items now, and so forth, right? So I'm going to now check the availability if it has done something after this requirement is just released. And by opening once again my Athens desk, and just for you to know, in each item as well, let me see. Oh no, this is the register. I have as well availability measurement once again on my item card. Okay, not only in the sales part, but it's important for me to, where is other enter statistics. See if here is next. Oh, goodness. Next receipt date. Okay, good. We are going to be receiving some items today. This is the availability that I'm measuring now, okay, for only this item. Then I have the next receipt date on 18. Good. So I have like a calendar, and Business Central has, summarized all of this important information for me. Plus, I have two sales orders, one for a 10 and the second for 10 as well. So considering all these variables, that I have different receipt dates as well and different quantities to receive. Here is the one that I'm purchasing, by the way, right? The quantities on the orders. So from just by taking a look at this, well, I will be measuring my availability. The system measures my availability with all of these variables that you see. And so the quantities, the days, the purchases, the demand requirements. So we have a lot that is, dynamically being calculated for us. This is basically in a nutshell, right? What you're seeing here, the proposed a functionality that I'm showing for today. This is not sometimes so understood, but in the end, it's not all about purchasing, it's not all about just sales, but actually understand this concept help us a lot if you want to then just, once again, just help your company to grow, to go to the next level, and then, of course, avoid these bottlenecks that we always, tend to have in our supply chain. So basically, that will be the main idea in a nutshell, right? In this small report. But then I was just having the I have just released this. So I have been maybe waiting all this time, maybe 1 week, 1 day. It depends of the lead time. Remember that part? It depends of the lead time and in our purchase order as well. Remember some defaulted information. This vendor provides my item into the main warehouse. That's important for, once again, our calculations, right? Just that. After that, I will be then just posting. I have received the items, the vendor arrived to the warehouse, and then you can select and receive these items where they are going to be then physically speaking available then in my warehouse after you do their reception and put away, for those of you who have these additional options or big warehouses, or if your warehouse is just not that complicated, you don't actually put away into big shelves, or well, just basically receive it, and that's fine for me as well. We just have the option, and then receive an invoice help us as well to then create an invoice immediately. Okay, so the reception is me, the idea of the reception basically is that I'm going to then receive, and I'm going to count these items and receive them immediately, right, to update the physical quantity. And that's what I'm going to do now. And the reception and the invoice is just, well, once I have received these 10 items, so in my case, well, these 100 tables, sorry, then I'm just going to be able to then invoice them. That's our rule in Business Central. First you receive, and then I can invoice this vendor to be able to pay him. Um, Let me see if I have vendor invoice number, the quantity, location. Receive an invoice. Maybe I have a setup. Dun. I have a quantity and quantity to receive. 1 second. I'm just looking for one field. Release. Open. There you go. Good. Now, in my PO, the quantity received is currently now 100. Okay. In every purchase order, we can see this field actually is going to tell us when the warehouse did it. Okay. And well, also as purchasers, part of the supply chain, we can have this and get the additional reports of the physical quantities we have and so forth. But for us, if I come back after doing this, I come back to my original sales order and I'm gonna run once again my review for this availability. You remember that, and this is the special part that I want to measure. And the same sales order, right, after let's say a few dates. Of course, just for the demo, I cannot wait until this date of capable to promise concept. But look at my availability. I now have, after my reception, of course, this 88 units, and I want to take a lecture just to finalize this webinar for today of the actual demand against the actual this not scheduled received. I have already received these items. But anyway, the idea is that from our gross requirement that is coming from these sales orders, I have two lines that they are both sales independently of the document number. But I have two sales currently here by taking a look at the type of item. And then, well, I still, even though I'm just selling, I have, let's say, gonna ship the item. Then my projected available balance after the items I receive, after the sales I already have, will be 88 in the end. And know that in advance. If you want as well, we have this forecast projected inventory or coming from forecast or remaining forecast because we have budgets that, well, maybe you want to import to Business Central, maybe information from the last year, right? Just as the guide, optionally, right? And plus factor 20% or something, and we can bring that data from the last year into Business Central if you want to see these additional entries, right? To more or less understand how you behave last year, and then what would be more or less the behavior in this current period, right? But now in 2024. Just in case that's another feature that is super cool to have we can get additional information, right? And we create forecasts. So for now, my projected inventory is 88. I can sell, oh, no problem. I now have my items. They have arrived. Of course, this, once again, just to show you, is going to always change dynamically, right? And in the end, then I will be able to post my sales order. So I'm going to ship it at invoice for this customer. Voila. Let me see. I have reserved this item. I have a reservation running behind the scene. I'm just going to cancel it for now because it's just behaving strange. I was checking this in advance, by the way, that I was having error with the central. But anyway, just to confirm and just to finish the webinar, in this moment, I have just shipped the items and I will be opening this invoice and so forth. But well, the post-sales invoice is once again similar to the PO concept. I need to first receive to invoice and pay the vendor. The same for us, right? We need to then just ship the items. Once we ship the items, we are going to be ready to then invoice this customer, and well, then later additional work comes, so this customer can pay them for my actual shipment. So good. That will be then the webinar for today, where we today spoke about a little bit about the configurations that we have. We consider the lead time. We consider the availability of these items, if they are coming in POs, the demand concept, the dates, the reports that you can check if you want to start using these ideas, and as well the functionality to then be able to promise to your customers, just in case if you don't have the current availability. Remember that, right? Not physical quantities. You saw that the system reserved for me an entry that I actually was checking. So reservation means that nobody else touches this. And I have some items that were already reserved that nobody else can touch. And that's exactly what happened when I was trying to sell. The system is not going to allow me unless I cancel by myself the reservation with permissions, right? So maybe your supervisor can allow that. It's not always necessary. Sometimes we just sell what we have, and that, that type of processes. But well, all these concepts work together inside Business Central to make us then a being able to make the real enhancements that we need. And Business Central understand that this is a requirement in order to make companies grow, in order to make supply chain more efficient, and then being able in the end to sell, right? That's what we need as well. So we all of these concepts and dots work together for us then to be able to work inside BC. They are optional, even though if we then use it, we can still purchase and sell. That's not a problem, and we can then use internal controls or other softwares as well if you need. But well, inside Business Central, we can do all of this. So well, this is the end of my presentation. I don't know if you have additional questions. Please let me know. Otherwise, we are just basically finish our presentation for today. And thank you very much for your time. See you next in our next webinar.